President Yunji of Earth stood in front of the cameras, knowing that billions of beings across the galaxy were watching. The Kethmori Empire had demanded Earth's surrender 3 days ago. Instead of fear or military preparation, Earth had decided to throw the biggest party in human history. Fellow beings of the galaxy, President Yunji began with a warm smile. Today I want to talk to you about a wonderful misunderstanding. Behind her, on giant screens, videos played showing Kethmori soldiers learning to bake bread with human grandmothers, alien children playing with human children, and Kethmori commanders singing karaoke badly but enthusiastically. When the Kethmori Empire first contacted us, we were so excited. Finally, we had found other intelligent life in the universe. We knew this was going to be the greatest adventure in human history. Admiral Velthak watched from his flagship, along with every other Kethmori in the fleet. The human president's words were being translated across the galaxy. Now we understand that the Kethmori have a very elaborate way of introducing themselves to new species. They bring huge fleets, they make impressive displays of power, and they test how new species respond to challenges. Emperor Zalthuvan, watching from his throne world, blinked his 6 eyes in confusion. Test? What test? At first we were puzzled by this introduction ceremony, President Yunji continued. But then we realized that the Kethmori were trying to see what kind of people we are. Are we the type who run away when things get difficult? Are we the type who fight when we're scared? Or are we the type who try to understand and make friends? Dr. Kyung-soo, Earth's leading expert on alien psychology, stepped up to the podium next to the president. After studying Kethmori behavior for the past month, he said, "We believe their entire approach is actually a sophisticated cultural evaluation system. By appearing threatening, they can quickly identify species that might be dangerous, cowardly, or unsuitable for galactic citizenship." Across the galaxy, conquered species were watching this broadcast. On the planet Zephyr, the blue-skinned Zephyrians looked at each other in amazement. "Is that what they were doing?" asked Elder Kippa. "Testing us? We failed the test," said another Zephyrian sadly. "We were so scared we surrendered immediately." On Earth, President Unji was showing more videos. Kethmori soldiers were being taught human games. Human children were teaching aliens how to make friendship bracelets. Kethmori commanders were learning to garden. "We want to thank the Kethmori Empire for this incredible test," the president said. "By staying calm and curious, by treating them as friends instead of enemies, we hope we've shown that humans are ready to join the galactic community." She paused and looked directly into the camera. "And we want to invite every species in the galaxy to visit Earth, not as conquerors or subjects, but as friends. We have so much to learn from each other." Emperor Zalthuvan was getting emergency communications from across his empire. The broadcast was causing chaos everywhere. "Sir," reported General Morthak, "we're getting messages from conquered worlds. They want to know if they can retake the test." "Retake the test?" Emperor Zalthuvan's voice cracked. "The Zephyrians are asking if they can try being friendly instead of scared. The Crystalline Collective wants to invite our fleets to cultural exchange programs. Sir, 17 different species have requested permission to organize welcome parties for our forces." On Earth, the broadcast continued. Videos showed the most touching moments from the past month. A Kethmori soldier crying as he tasted chocolate for the first time. Human teenagers teaching aliens to skateboard. A group of elderly humans and young Kethmori working together to build a garden. "Look at these images," said Dr. Kyung-soo. "This is what happens when different species choose friendship over fear, art, laughter, learning, growth. This is what the galaxy could be like." The final video showed Admiral Velthak himself, sitting around a campfire with Captain Teho and other humans, all of them laughing at jokes that cross species barriers. "We know that Admiral Velthak and his crews have been as surprised by our response as we have been by theirs," President Yunji said. "But that's the beauty of friendship. It always surprises us." She looked directly into the camera again. "Admiral Velthak, if you're watching this, we want you to know that you've already succeeded. You've found friends in the galaxy. Earth officially invites the Kethmori Empire to establish permanent cultural exchange stations on our worlds. We want to learn from you, and we hope you'll let us teach you some things too." The broadcast ended with a simple message in hundreds of languages. The galaxy is big enough for everyone to be friends. On his flagship, Admiral Velthak sat in stunned silence. Around him, his entire bridge crew was looking at him hopefully. "Sir, said Commander HFY quietly. Did we really pass their test? Admiral Velthak thought about the past month. The laughter, the games, the food, the music, the stories shared around campfires, the way humans had treated them not as conquerors but as welcome guests. I think, he said slowly, we're the ones who learned something. Across the galaxy, the reaction was immediate and massive. Species that had been conquered decades ago began organizing their own cultural festivals. They decorated their cities, prepared local foods, and sent messages to Kethmori fleets asking if they could be friends instead of subjects. On the planet Zerion, the insectoid Zerians had spent 50 years in fearful submission to the Empire. Now they were planning a celebration. If the humans can befriend the Kethmori, clicked their leader, maybe we can too. Emperor Zalthuvan found himself facing the greatest crisis in the Empire's history. But it wasn't a military crisis. It was something much more challenging, sir, General Morthak reported. Our forces across the galaxy are requesting permission to accept friendship invitations from conquered species. And if I refuse? Sir, I think they might quit. Emperor Zalthuvan had built his empire on fear. But fear was fragile. It could be broken by something as simple as kindness. General, he said finally, what do you think about these humans? General Morthak was quiet for a moment. Sir, I think they might be the smartest species we've ever met. Why? Because they figured out how to conquer us without firing a single shot. Emperor Zalthuvan looked at his reports again. Across the galaxy, Kethmori soldiers were learning art, music, cooking, and games. They were making friends, sharing stories, and discovering what it felt like to be welcomed instead of feared. For 800 years, the Kethmori Empire had been the most powerful force in the galaxy. But the humans had shown them something. More powerful than weapons or fear. They had shown them what it felt like to belong, an emperor. Zalthuvan watched more reports of his soldiers laughing and playing with alien children. He realized that the empire as he knew it was over. The question now was what would replace it, and deep down, looking at all those images of friendship and joy, he was starting to think that whatever came next might be much better than what came before. Admiral Velthak sat in his command chair, staring at reports he couldn't believe. In 800 years, the Kethmori Empire had conquered 847 different species. Every single time it was the same. The aliens would see the Imperial fleet and either run away screaming or attack in desperate fear. But these humans were different. Sir, said Commander Nextel. His second-in-command, the humans have sent another message. What do they want now? Velthak asked, rubbing his head. They're asking if we want to try human food, something called pizza. They say it's delicious. Velthak looked around his bridge. His crew of 50 Kethmori warriors were all listening. Some looked curious. This was not normal. They also sent cultural information, Nextel continued. Music, art, stories. They say they want to share their culture with us. Share? Velthak had never heard that word used this way before. Meanwhile, on the human ship Wanderer, the crew was preparing for visitors. Captain Tejo had invited a small group of Kethmori to come aboard. Remember, he told his crew, they're probably not used to kindness. Go slow, be gentle. Dayun was setting up displays about human culture. Minju was preparing a tour of the ship's engine room. Wujin was learning basic Kethmori words to make their guests feel welcome. When the Kethmori shuttle arrived, 5 aliens stepped onto the human ship. They were all tall and gray with 4 eyes and 6 fingers. They looked around nervously. Welcome aboard, Tejo said with a big smile. We're so happy you came. The lead Kethmori was Commander Jin Wu. Wait, that wasn't right. The lead Kethmori was Commander HFY. He looked confused by the warm greeting. Your ship is very small, he said. Yes, but it's home, said Sora. Would you like some tea? Or coffee? We have different kinds. Commander HFY looked at his team. They all shrugged. What is tea? Oh, you'll love it, said Dawun. It's a warm drink. Very relaxing. As they walked through the ship, the humans explained everything. They showed the Kethmori how they grew food, how they made art, how they exercised to stay healthy. Why do you show us this? Asked one of the younger Kethmori. Are you not afraid we will use this information against you? Minju laughed. Why would you want to hurt us? We like you. The young alien blinked his 4 eyes. You like us? Of course. You're interesting. Your skin color is beautiful. And your extra eyes must help you see so much more than we can. The young Kethmori touched his gray skin. Beautiful. Back on the main Kethmori ship, Admiral Velthak was having his own problems. Emperor Zalthuvan had called him. The Emperor's face filled the screen. He had 6 eyes instead of 4, and his skin was darker gray. He looked angry. Admiral, why have you not conquered these humans yet? Sir, they are unusual. Unusual how? Velthak didn't know how to explain. They are not afraid, sir. They want to be friends. Friends? Emperor Zalthuvan's 6 eyes narrowed. What does that mean? I don't know, sir. But they invited us to visit their ship. They gave us food. They asked about our families. They asked about families. The Emperor sounded confused now. Yes, sir. They wanted to know if we have children. If we love them. If we play games together. Emperor Zalthuvan was quiet for a long moment. Play games? Sir, I think these humans might be the strangest species we have ever met. On the human ship, the cultural exchange was going well. The Kethmori visitors were trying pizza for the first time. This is... Commander Zexhai chewed slowly. This is good. Right? Said Wu Jin. We have hundreds of different foods. Each human culture makes different kinds. Different cultures? Asked another Kethmori. But you are all humans. Yes, but we come from different places on our planet, explained Dayun. Different groups develop different ways of living. Different languages, different foods, different art. And you don't fight about it? The humans looked at each other. Well, sometimes we disagree, said Teho honestly. But mostly we enjoy learning from each other. The Kethmori visitors looked amazed. In the Empire, everyone does things the same way, said Commander Zexhai. That sounds boring, said Sora. Don't you want to try new things? The commander was quiet. Then he asked, could you teach us some of your games? For the next hour, the humans taught the aliens simple games. Card games, word games, silly physical games that made everyone laugh. The Kethmori were awkward at first, but they started to have fun. I have not laughed in many years, said the young Kethmori who had asked about fear. Why not? Asked Minju. Laughter is not allowed in the Empire. It shows weakness. That's silly, said Daun. Laughter makes everything better. It helps us feel good and connect with others. When the Kethmori visitors returned to their ship, Admiral Velthak could see they had changed. They were standing differently. They looked happy. Report, he ordered. Sir, said Commander Zexhai, the humans are remarkable. They have so many different ways of living, and they share everything freely. They gave us food, added the young one, and they taught us games, and they said we could visit again. Admiral Velthak noticed that his crew was listening closely. Usually they didn't care about conquest reports. But they seemed very interested in what the visitors had learned. Sir, Commander Zexhai said quietly, what if we don't conquer them? What? What if we just stayed here and learned from them? Admiral Velthak looked around his bridge. Many of his crew were nodding. This had never happened before. The Emperor expects us to conquer them, he said. But do we want to? Asked the young Kethmori. That night, Admiral Velthak couldn't sleep. He kept thinking about the question. Did he want to conquer the humans? For 800 years, he had conquered species because it was his job, because the Empire commanded it. But no one had ever asked him what he wanted. The next morning, the humans sent another message. Good morning, Admiral, said Captain Teho. We're having a music festival today. Different members of our crew will play songs from their home cultures. Would you and your crew like to listen? Admiral Velthak looked at his bridge crew. They were all looking at him hopefully. Music festival? He asked. Yes. Humans make music when we're happy. We thought you might enjoy it. Admiral Velthak made a decision that surprised himself. We would like that. As music filled the space between the ships, something strange happened. Kethmori crew members began moving to the rhythm. Some started making their own sounds, humming along with the human songs. Admiral Velthak realized that in 800 years of conquest, no one had ever made music for the Kethmori before. He began to understand why his crew didn't want to destroy these strange, kind humans. For the first time in his long life, Admiral Velthak was starting to question the Empire itself. Emperor Zalthuvan had not slept in 3 days. Reports kept coming in from across the galaxy, and each one was more impossible than the last. His empire, built over 800 years of conquest and fear, was falling apart. But it wasn't falling apart because of rebellion or war. It was falling apart because everyone wanted to be friends. "Sir," General Morthak said, entering the throne room with another stack of reports. "The situation has gotten worse." "Worse how?" the Emperor asked tiredly. "The humans have established what they call friendship embassies on 47 worlds. Our soldiers are requesting transfers to work at these embassies instead of military duties." Emperor Zalthuven rubbed his 6 eyes. "What do they do at these friendship embassies?" "They teach cooking classes, sir. And they learn local art forms. And they play sports." On the human world of New Tokyo, Donghyun had just opened the most successful restaurant in the galaxy. The waiting list was 3 months long, and half his customers were Kethmori soldiers who had become addicted to human food. 2 orders of ramen, extra spicy, called out Commander Zexhai, who had become Donghyun's assistant chef, and 1 order of the chocolate cake for table 7. Donghyun smiled as he watched the Kethmori commander work. 3 months ago, Zexhai had been a military officer. Now he could make perfect noodles, and his chocolate cakes were famous across 3 star systems. "Zexhai," Donghyun said, "you're getting better at this than I am." The alien commander's 4 eyes lit up with pride. "Really? I never thought I could be good at creating things instead of destroying them." At the same time, on the Kethmori capital world, Yuri was teaching a philosophy class to 200 eager students. Half were Kethmori citizens, half were from other conquered species who had heard about her lectures. "Today we're talking about democracy," Yuri said. "This is the idea that everyone should have a voice in making decisions that affect them." A young Kethmori raised his hand. "But what if people make bad decisions?" "That's a great question," Yuri smiled. "In democratic societies, people learn from their mistakes, and they help each other make better choices." An elderly Zephyrian in the back raised her hand. "What if the leaders don't listen to the people?" "Then the people choose new leaders," Yuri explained. The class was quiet for a moment. This was a completely new idea for most of them. "You mean," said a young crystalline being, "we could choose our own leaders?" "That's how it works on Earth. Every few years humans vote for new leaders. If the leaders do a good job, people vote for them again. If not, they choose someone else." In the audience, several Kethmori military officers were taking notes. They had been ordered to monitor Yuri's classes for dangerous ideas. But instead of feeling alarmed, they found themselves fascinated. Back in the Imperial Palace, Emperor Zalthuven was dealing with his biggest crisis yet. His own military commanders were questioning orders for the first time in centuries. "Sir, Admiral Velthak had just arrived for an emergency meeting. I need to report something important." "Let me guess," the Emperor said. "More of your soldiers want to quit the military to become bakers." "Actually, sir, it's worse than that. My soldiers don't want to quit the military. They want to change what the military does." Emperor Zalthuven blinked all 6 eyes. "What do they want it to do?" "They want to help people instead of conquering them. They want to build things instead of destroying them. Sir, they want the military to become a peacekeeping and disaster relief organization." The Emperor stared at his admiral. "They want to what?" "Yesterday, my crew used our ships to help evacuate civilians from a volcanic eruption on Kepler 7. The humans taught them how to do disaster relief. Sir, my soldiers have never been happier." Emperor Zalthuven was quiet for a long moment. Then he asked, "And what do you want, Admiral?" Admiral Velthak looked surprised by the question. "Sir, in 800 years I have never asked any of my commanders what they want. I have only told them what to do. So I'm asking now, what do you want?" Admiral Velthak thought carefully. "Sir, I want to keep learning from the humans. I want to explore the galaxy and meet new species as friends, not conquerors. I want to help build something good instead of just maintaining power through fear, even if it means the end of the Empire as we know it. Sir, I think the Empire ended the day we met the humans. We just haven't admitted it yet." Meanwhile, across the galaxy, the changes were accelerating. On the planet Nexus Prime, the local Kethmori governor had been invited to a community meeting where citizens were discussing local problems. "The water treatment plant needs repairs," said a local citizen. "What can we do about it?" Governor Theknal had never been asked for help solving problems before. Usually he just told people what to do and punished them if they didn't do it. I could send engineers to fix it," he said uncertainly. "That would be wonderful." "Thank you." "You're thanking me?" "Of course. You're helping solve our problem." Governor Theknal felt that strange feeling in his chest again. The same feeling he'd been having ever since the humans started teaching about cooperation and mutual respect. He was starting to realize it was happiness. On Earth, Dr. Kyung-soo was preparing another broadcast. This one would be even more revolutionary than the first. "Citizens of the galaxy," he began. "We've been watching the amazing changes happening across the Kethmori Empire. We've seen soldiers become teachers, governors become community helpers, and military fleets become rescue operations." The camera showed footage from across the galaxy, Kethmori working alongside other species to build schools, hospitals, and parks, former enemies sharing meals and celebrating festivals together. "We think it's time to ask an important question. What if the galaxy governed itself? What if instead of one empire ruling over everyone, all species worked together as equal partners?" Emperor Zalthuven watched this broadcast with growing alarm, not because he disagreed with it, but because he was starting to think it made sense. "Sir," General Morthak said gently, "the humans are proposing something called a Galactic Federation, a government where every species has an equal voice. And you think this could work?" "Sir, I think it's already working. Look at what's happening on our own worlds. People are happier, more productive, and more creative than they've ever been under Imperial rule." Emperor Zalthuven walked to his window and looked out at his capital city. Below, he could see Kethmori citizens talking and laughing with beings from dozen different species. There were art galleries, music venues, restaurants serving food from hundreds of worlds. His city had never been more alive. "General," he said quietly, "what do you think would happen if I abdicated?" "Sir, what if I stepped down as emperor? What if we let the galaxy choose its own leaders?" General Morthak was quiet for a moment. "Sir, I think you might be remembered as the greatest leader in galactic history." "How?" "By giving up power? By having the wisdom to know when it was time to share it." That night, Emperor Zalthuven made the decision that would change the galaxy forever. He would call for a galactic constitutional convention. Every species, every world, every colony would send representatives to create a new form of government based on cooperation instead of conquest. As he prepared his announcement, he thought about the humans who had started all of this. They had defeated the most powerful empire in the galaxy without firing a single shot. They had conquered hearts and minds with nothing but kindness, curiosity, and the radical idea that everyone deserved to be treated with dignity. Tomorrow, he would announce the end of the Kethmori Empire and the beginning of something new, something better, something that would make the whole galaxy feel like friends sitting around a campfire sharing stories under the stars. Captain Taeho was drinking his morning coffee when the alarm started screaming. He looked at his cup and sighed. Another quiet day in space had just ended. "Captain, you need to see this," called Daun from her station. She was the ship's science officer, and her voice was excited, not scared. That was unusual. Taeho walked to the main screen. Outside, space was no longer empty. Huge ships surrounded them. These ships were bigger than anything humans had ever built. They looked like dark metal mountains floating in space. "How many?" Taeho asked. 27 ships, sir," said Wu Jin from communications. "And Captain, they're trying to talk to us." The main screen changed. A face appeared. It was not human. The being had gray skin and 4 eyes. Its mouth had too many teeth. Most people would be scared. Taeho was just curious. "I am Admiral Velthak of the Kethmori Empire," the alien said. Its voice was deep and rough. "Your small ship is surrounded. You will surrender now or be destroyed." Taeho looked around his bridge. His crew of 12 people were all staring at the screen. But they didn't look afraid. They looked interested. "Sir," whispered Daun, "this is incredible. First contact with an alien species. We're making history." "Should I open a channel?" asked Wu Jin. Taeho nodded. "Admiral Velthak, this is Captain Taeho of the human ship Wanderer. Thank you for contacting us. We're very excited to meet you." The alien's 4 eyes blinked in confusion. "Excited? Did you not hear me? I said surrender or be destroyed." "Yes, I heard that," Taeho said. "But first, could you tell us more about your empire? We've never met aliens before. This is amazing for us." Admiral Velthak's mouth opened, then closed. He looked at someone off-screen, then back at Taeho. You want to know about the empire?" "Of course," said Daun, moving closer to the screen. "How many species are in your empire? What are your ships made of? How do you travel so fast? We have so many questions." The alien admiral looked more confused. "Questions, but I am here to conquer you. That's interesting too, said Tae-ho. Why do you conquer people? Is it for resources? Or maybe cultural reasons? We'd love to understand. On the alien ship, other gray faces appeared behind Admiral Velthak. They were all looking confused. They whispered to each other in their own language. This is not how this usually works, the Admiral said slowly. How does it usually work? Asked Minju, the ship's engineer. She had joined the group around the screen. Do most species run away? Or do they fight? We're doing research on first contact situations. Admiral Velthak rubbed his head with a hand that had 6 fingers. They usually scream, or beg, or shoot at us. Oh, that's sad, said Sora, the ship's doctor. They must be very scared. But we're not scared. We're happy to meet you. Happy? The Admiral's voice cracked a little. Yes, very happy, Tae-ho said. We've been looking for alien life for hundreds of years. Finding you is like winning the biggest prize ever. Woo-jin raised his hand. Admiral, could you tell us about your language? The sounds are very interesting. Do you have poetry in your culture? Poetry? Admiral Velthak looked at his crew. They all shrugged with their 6-fingered hands. And your ships, added Minju. The design is beautiful. Very artistic. Who designed them? Are they artists in your culture? Dayan pulled out a notebook. Could you tell us about your home planet? What's the weather like? What do you eat? Do you have families? The questions came fast. The humans were all talking at once, asking about everything. Admiral Velthak tried to keep up, but he looked lost. Wait, he said. Stop, I came here to make you surrender. Why are you asking me about weather? Because we want to be friends, Tae-ho said simply. That's what humans do when we meet new people. We ask questions. We learn about them. Friends? The Admiral said the word like it tasted strange. Yes, friends. People who like each other and help each other, explained Sora. Don't you have friends in your empire? The alien crew behind Admiral Velthak looked at each other. They whispered more in their language. We have subjects, the Admiral said slowly. People we rule over. That sounds lonely, said Da-un. Wouldn't you rather have friends? Admiral Velthak was quiet for a long moment. His 4 eyes looked at each human face on his screen. They were all smiling at him. Real warm smiles, I don't understand, he said finally. You should be afraid. My ships could destroy yours in seconds, but you haven't, Tae-ho pointed out. You're talking to us instead. That means you're not a bad person. Bad people don't talk first. I am supposed to be terrifying, Admiral Velthak said. He sounded sad. You're not terrifying, said Woo-jin. You're interesting. Your voice has beautiful tones. Are you a singer? A singer? The Admiral's 4 eyes blinked again. No, I am a military commander. You could be both, suggested Sora. Humans do many different things. Behind Admiral Velthak, his crew was getting excited. They were pointing at the screen and talking fast in their language. Admiral, one of them said in broken human language. They seem nice. Admiral Velthak turned to look at his crew, then back at the humans. This has never happened before, he said. What usually happens? Asked Tae-ho. Species either run or fight, then we take their planets, then they become part of the Empire. And then what? Asked Da-un. Then nothing, they work for us. They give us resources. They follow our rules. That doesn't sound fun for anyone, said Minju. Admiral Velthak was quiet again. His crew was talking louder behind him. Some of them sounded excited. Would you like to visit our ship? Tae-ho asked. We could show you how humans live. And maybe you could show us your ship too? Visit? Admiral Velthak's voice was very small now. Yes, like friends do. We visit each other. The alien admiral looked at his crew. They were all nodding. Some looked curious. Others looked hopeful. I need to think about this, Admiral Velthak said. Take all the time you need, Tae-ho said. We're not going anywhere. And Admiral, thank you for not shooting us first. That was very kind, the screen went blank. On the human ship, everyone was quiet for a moment. Then Dayun started laughing. Did you see their faces? They looked so confused. Poor things, said Sora. They probably never had anyone be nice to them. Well, said Tae-ho, looks like we're about to change that. Outside, the alien ship stayed where they were. But they didn't point their weapons at the small human ship anymore. 3 weeks had passed since first contact, and the Kethmori Empire was facing a problem they had never had before. The humans were supposed to be conquered by now. Instead, they were having parties. Admiral Velthak stood on his bridge watching the view screen in confusion. The human colony of New Seoul was having another festival. Bright lights decorated their buildings. Music played across the communications channels. And worst of all, some of his own crew members were asking if they could join the celebration. "Sir," said Commander ZXHY, "the humans have invited us to their harvest festival. They say they want to teach us their dances." "Dances," Admiral Velthak repeated slowly. In 800 years of conquest, no species had ever invited them to dance. On New Seoul Colony, Governor Min-soo was having the time of his life. The colony had been blockaded by Kethmori ships for 2 weeks, but it didn't feel like a blockade. It felt like the galaxy's most interesting cultural exchange. "Hyejin, how are the food preparations going?" he asked his assistant. "Great, Governor. We're making enough Korean barbecue for 3,000 people, including our Kethmori visitors." "Visitors," Min-soo smiled. "I love how that sounds better than invaders." The festival was in full swing when the first Kethmori shuttles landed. The aliens stepped out carefully, looking around at the decorations and the happy humans. "Welcome," called Min-soo, walking up to greet them. "Thank you for coming. We're so excited to share our harvest festival with you." The lead Kethmori, Commander Bexdal, looked confused. "You are excited? But we are here to occupy your colony." "Well, yes, but you're also here for the festival, right?" Min-soo said cheerfully. "Come on, let's get you some food. Are you hungry?" Before Commander Bexdal could answer, a group of human children ran up to the Kethmori group. "They were carrying flower crowns for you," said a little girl named So Young, holding up a crown made of yellow flowers, "to welcome you to our planet." Commander Bexdal stared at the flower crown. No one had ever given him flowers before. Slowly, he bent down so the child could put it on his head. "There!" So Young clapped her hands. "Now you look pretty." The other Kethmori looked at their commander. The flower crown looked strange on his gray head, but somehow it made him seem less scary and more friendly. "Do we all get flowers?" asked one of the younger aliens. Soon all the Kethmori were wearing flower crowns. They looked at each other and started making sounds that might have been laughter. Back in space, Emperor Zalthuvan was reading reports that made no sense. His fleets had blockaded 12 human colonies. But instead of surrendering, the humans had organized cultural festivals, invited the Kethmori crews to participate, and somehow turned military operations into friendship gatherings. "This is impossible," the Emperor said to his advisors. "How do you blockade people who keep inviting you to dinner?" His chief advisor, General Morthak, looked tired. "Sir, our soldiers are reporting high morale problems." "High morale is good," the Emperor said. "No, sir. They're too happy. They don't want to fight anymore. They want to learn human cooking and join human music groups." Emperor Zalthuvan rubbed his 6 eyes. "Have you tried threatening the humans with bigger weapons?" "Yes, sir. They asked if they could take pictures of the weapons for their museums." On New Seoul Colony, the festival was a huge success. The Kethmori were learning human dances, trying different foods, and playing games with the children. Commander Bexdal was getting a cooking lesson from an elderly woman named Bam Yi. "You see," Bam Yi was saying, "the secret is in the sauce. You have to balance the sweet and the spicy." Commander Bexdal carefully stirred the sauce. "Like this? Perfect. You're a natural cook." The alien commander felt something strange in his chest. Pride, happiness? He had never felt this way about anything before. "Bam Yi," he said slowly. "Why are you teaching me this? Aren't you afraid of me?" The old woman laughed. "Afraid? Why would I be afraid? You're learning to cook. Cooks feed people. That makes them good people." Nearby, another group of humans was showing Kethmori soldiers how to play football. The aliens were terrible at it, but they were having fun trying. No, laughed Jae-sung, a young human. "You use your feet, not your hands." "But hands are easier," complained a Kethmori soldier. "That's why it's challenging," explained another human. "The fun is in learning something difficult." The Kethmori soldier thought about this. In the Empire, difficult things were avoided or conquered. But these humans seemed to enjoy challenges. In another part of the colony, Dr. Yunsu was having a deep conversation with a group of Kethmori officers about philosophy and art. In human culture, she was explaining, we believe that every person has value. Every person can contribute something good to society. Even people who are not strong or smart? Asked one of the officers. Especially those people, Dr. Yunsu said. Strength and intelligence are just two kinds of gifts. There are many others. Kindness, creativity, humor, patience. We try to help everyone find their gifts. The Kethmori officers looked at each other. This was a completely new idea for them. In the Empire, said one officer slowly, only the strongest and smartest are valued. That sounds lonely, said Dr. Yunsu. What about the others? They serve the strong and smart. But what if the strong and smart are wrong about something? What if someone weak and not so smart has a better idea? The officer was quiet for a long moment. I never thought about that. As the festival continued into the night, something remarkable happened. Kethmori soldiers began opening up about their lives. They talked about their families back home, their fears, their dreams. The humans listened with genuine interest and shared their own stories. Commander Bexdal found himself sitting around a fire with Governor Minsu and several colonists, talking about his childhood on the Kethmori homeworld. I wanted to be a teacher when I was young, he admitted, but only warriors were respected in our society. It's not too late, said Minsu. You could teach here if you want. We'd love to learn about Kethmori culture. You would? Commander Bexdal's 4 eyes widened. Of course. Every culture has valuable knowledge. You could teach us about space travel, about your history, about your art. We don't have art, Commander Bexdal said sadly. Everyone has art, said Hyojin. Maybe you just haven't discovered yours yet. The next morning, Commander Bexdal sent a report to Admiral Velthak that would change everything. Sir, I must report that the blockade of New Sol Colony has been compromised. Compromised how? Admiral Velthak asked. The humans have invited us to establish a permanent cultural exchange station. They want to learn from us and they want to teach us. Sir, I would like to request permission to accept. Admiral Velthak stared at the screen. You want to request what? Permission to become friends with the humans, sir. Behind Commander Bexdal, Admiral Velthak could see other Kethmori crew members. They were all nodding hopefully. Some were still wearing flower crowns. Admiral Velthak realized that he was facing a decision no Kethmori commander had ever had to make. For the first time in the Empire's history, his soldiers didn't want to conquer. They wanted to stay and learn. The strangest part was that Admiral Velthak was starting to want the same thing. Commander, he said finally, I'll need to think about this. But deep down he already knew what his answer would be. The humans had done something impossible. They had made the Kethmori Empire question everything they believed about conquest, power, and what it meant to be strong. And it had all started with flower crowns and an invitation to dance.